Baruch Hu. Seitchem leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon, mimelech malachei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu, mimelech malachei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Once again, Shabbat Shalom, everybody, to all those here with us. It's a beautiful evening outside, and of course, those joining us via the live stream. It's so nice to be out here in our beautiful chapel, and finally warm enough and cool enough at the same time, which we've been waiting for the perfect balance to come back outside. And we'll begin this evening, of course, with kindling the light of Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Before we continue with Kabbalat Shabbat, now that you've heard her, I'm going to introduce you to somebody who's going to be joining our clergy team this coming year. This is Becky Mann. Becky is our new cantorial intern. She hails from Las Vegas, but more recently from New York City, and she'll be joining us weekly throughout this year. She's going to be here a couple of times this summer, and then on a weekly basis throughout the academic year. And we are really, really privileged to have her here as a part of our team, as a part of our congregational family. And I'm really thrilled to be able to introduce her here this evening. And you are actually going to get not only a taste of her beautiful voice and spirit, but you'll also hear a little later in the service a couple of pieces that were written by her. She is a burgeoning star songwriter of the Reform movement, and so we're really lucky that she has chosen to make us our home, and I'm really thrilled to be able to introduce her. And so as we welcome the Sabbath bride, we also welcome the Sabbath intern, and we're thrilled to have you with us, Becky. So to those of you who are here, I hope you'll have take a moment to introduce yourselves and make Becky feel welcome when services conclude. It was a good one. Yeah. I call that a rabbi joke. Page 20, we continue with Lecha Dodi. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Penei Shabbat, Lecha. Shabbat. גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת חלה, פני שבת לקבלה. לך דודי לקראת חלה, פני שבת לקבלה. לך דודי לקראת חלה, פני שבת לקבלה. לך דודי לקראת חלה, פני שבת לקבלה.
We'll continue with Chatzi Kaddish, page 145.
יתקדש ויתקדש שמי רבה, אמן. ויעלמה דברך חירותי, וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה, בעגלה, ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה, שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה, ואמרו amen.
We'll continue with Baruch Hu on the next page, and I'll invite you to please rise. Continuing in the Hebrew, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach she'arim, uvituna meshane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב הרביב.
In each age we receive and transmit Torah. At each moment we are addressed by the world.
In each age, we are challenged by our ancient teaching. At each moment, we stand face to face with truth.
In each age we add our wisdom to that which has gone before. At each moment the knowing heart is filled with wonder.
In each age, the children of Torah become its builders and seek to set the world firm on a foundation of truth. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Continue responsively on page 151. We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all.
Yet that oneness eludes our grasp, as imperfection and evil abound.
Before our eyes there is a vision of perfection, order, and goodness.
There's evil enough to break the heart and good enough to exalt the soul.
When will redemption come?
When we grant everyone what we claim for ourselves.
Long ago we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High. We learned God's presence redeems time and event, so we celebrate this power that makes for freedom.
No ובניך בוקי הים לפני משה ומרים. זה אלי אנו, זה אלי אנו, ואמרו
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomrenu l'chaim, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Give us a place to rest, O God. Shelter us in the long, soft evening shadows of your truth. You are true protection and safety, and in your presence we find love and acceptance. Watch over us as we go forth, and prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours.
Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Shamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat, la'asot et hashabat ledorotam berit olam, beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam.
I invite you to please rise for the blessings of the Amidah.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chaste Avot Ve'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch Ata Adonai, Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah, Ata Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechaye Akol, Ata Rav Lehoshia, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye Hakol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Berofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Baal Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit, Umechaye, Umatmiach Yeshua, Vene'eman Ata L'Hachayot HaKol, Baruch Ata Adonai, Mechaye HaKol. Ata Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh, U'Kadoshim B'chol Yom Yahalelucha Selah, Baruch Ata Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
Please be seated. And at this point in our service, we turn our thoughts and prayers to those who are in need of healing of the body or of the spirit. This Shabbat, we're praying for the healing of Cindy Baker, Erwin Baker, Ada Barbara Corvelli, Moshe Danielle, Alan Foltz, Bill Foster, Marcy Goldsmith, Larry Hollander, Eliana Leora, Bat Shoshana Leah, Julie Levine, and Alan Rothfeder. And if there are names you'd like to add to this list, I'll invite you to share them out loud or hold them in your heart, and if you feel so inclined, to acknowledge your relationship to them as well. Prayers for healing. Judy. Baruch Atah Adonai Rofei HaCholim. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals the sick. Misha Baruch can be found on the inside cover of your prayer books.
Source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
And from the healing of the body, we turn to the healing of the world, praying for that thing that we need most, an abundance of peace in our lives, in our communities, in our country, and of course around the world. Shalom Rav, page 164.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et samecha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim
So I'll share more in just a couple of moments about this week's Torah portion, but one thing that I love about it is that it's this kind of fantastical story that's a little bit out of nowhere, but there's a piece of it, it's Parshat Balak, that has a series of what is supposed to be curses and ends up being blessings. Kind of this non-Jewish prophet that's called in by a foreign king with the intention of cursing the Israelites, and instead what comes out is blessings. And what it makes me think of every time is where we might find blessings in the most unlikely of places. A place where you're expecting to hear a curse, where you're expecting to have a moment that brings you down, but maybe just might be able to find a blessing somewhere in the process of it. Something I'm thinking about this week, pulled from our tradition, and a little bit of inspiration for you of where we each might have found some blessings this week or hope to find blessings in the week to come. We'll take a few moments of silent prayer.
רצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. What is it that makes a house a home? Is it family pictures on the walls or a home-cooked meal around a table with loved ones? Maybe it's a coveted spot on the couch or one of those, those little mugs that say home is where the heart is. It's like a little nod to my mom, who for sure has many of those. But either way, what makes a house a home? In Judaism, we have a symbol for this, of course, a mezuzah. It serves two functions, one being that every time you enter or leave, it's a reminder of the covenant with God. And the second is a symbol to everyone else that this particular house is a Jewish household. Essentially, it changes it from just a Jewish house to a Jewish home. But ultimately, a home is somewhere stable or permanent. It's somewhere we may feel safe. Maybe it's somewhere sacred, somewhere surrounded by people we love or care about, somewhere to welcome guests for all who pass by. There is, of course, a sense of specialness to a home. This week's Torah portion, Parshat Balak, includes words of blessing, as I mentioned before, that were intended to start as a curse. The story goes that Balak, a Moabite king, feels threatened by the power of the neighboring Israelite tribes and finds a non-Jewish prophet named Balaam to go and curse the Israelites. After much resistance, kind of a weird story that involves a talking donkey and many failed attempts, Balaam finally reaches a hill overlooking the Israelite camp, where instead of giving a curse to the Israelites, he says words of blessing. He says, Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Sounds familiar, right? See some nods. It's a line that we use as a sort of welcoming anthem in our liturgy to our prayer spaces. It, in a way, marks a transition from the outside world to the sacred space of a synagogue community. So we're going to break it down for a moment. Ma tovu, how wonderful, how good, how fair. Ohalecha, the word ohel in that means tent or a shelter. Yaakov is Jacob. Mishkenotecha, again, we'll just take the first part of that. It's the word mishkan. We know the mishkan as the tabernacle, but it's also a dwelling place. It's the way we use it here. If you use the word the same root in a different way, it's a pledge or a commitment. So it's something that's permanent. And then Israel. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. How fair or how good are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling place, Israel. So on one hand, we have an ohel, a tent. And a tent, of course, is something that you can pack up into a little bag and take with you to the next stop of your journey. It's a shelter, yet it's still kind of open. It stops the rain, but usually lets it in on the sides or through the cracks. It might break or tear, but it gets the job done to keep us sheltered. Yet a mishkan, a dwelling place, is a little bit sturdier. Not only on the outside, but in meaning as well. Being the Hebrew word for the tabernacle, the intention put into it is so exact and so precise. If we go back to Exodus, God instructs Moses to tell the Israelites to build this structure, and God specifies exactly how the tabernacle should be designed. So even though it's portable, in itself, a mishkan is a permanent in body and spirit, where the ohel is temporary. The rabbis have a lot of thoughts on this, as you can imagine. We learn the difference between the Ohel and the Mishkan, kind of the temporary and the permanent. But what about Jacob and Israel? Though they are the same, Jacob renamed Israel after wrestling with God. We learn that it's kind of a dual personalities and characteristics residing in the same man. The rabbis say that the year tense, the Ohel, must be that of Jacob when he was at a spiritual low. And the Mishkan, or your dwelling places, must be at the level of Israel after Jacob had wrestled with God. Jacob represents a sense of smallness, where Israel is expansive. Jacob is the early part of the narrative, the early part of his story, where Israel kind of embodies the Spirit of God. Thus, this one line, Ma tovu halacha Yaakov mishkanotecha Yisrael, has a lot to it. So we have these two things. On one hand, we have an Ohel that's temporary and represents a young Jacob figuring things out, and a Mishkan that's a permanent dwelling place that embodies the strength of the people of Israel. So the question then is, or my question is, what is it that the Ohel is missing but the Mishkan has? What is it that Jacob is missing that Israel has? Essentially, coming back to the question that we started with, how does the house become the home? How does a tent become a dwelling place? Even how does this space go from an outdoor amphitheater to a sacred chapel? Or how does inside go from a room with pews to a sanctuary? Our rabbis would say that it's the element of God's divine presence that allows us to transform an Ohel that feels rather ordinary into a Mishkan, a sacred dwelling place. In this Torah portion, Balak's desire to curse the Israelites and hire Balaam to do so came from an immense place of fear. Fear for what the Israelites could do to his kingdom. But instead, Balaam's encounter with the angel allowed God into his midst, and he was able to see the Israelites as worthy of blessing. So he let God in, just as the rabbi said elevated Jacob to Israel and the Ohel to a Mishkan. But I would add that it's not just God. It's not just allowing God into a space, but the little bit of God that's in each of us and what we choose to do with it. It's how we walk in the ways of God and remember that each person is created in God's image. It's when we welcome the stranger and love our neighbors and engage in acts that truly help heal the world. That's what make our houses homes and our tents into sacred dwelling places. I was taught once that arguably the most important part of a home is a welcome mat. I guess the front entry we can expand it to, because that's the way we welcome in guests, whether that be our neighbor or the stranger, or someone who's in need of a little bit of shelter or help. But that welcome mat is what makes a home holy. When Jordan and I moved into our current apartment, we received a gift from some friends that was in fact a welcome mat. The funny thing about this welcome mat is what it looks like. It's has two hands with each of our names under it, and then a paw print with our dog's name under it. And therefore, I was beyond embarrassed to put it outside our door. I did, and within days, the entire hallway knew our names, knew our dog, and all of a sudden, I was having conversations in nearly every elevator ride. So indeed, I'm thankful for that embarrassing welcome mat, because it opened up our home to neighbors and strangers, and I believe it is what turned our tent into a Mishkan. It turned our house into a home, a dwelling place for God. So may we always strive to create homes and sanctuaries that are not just tents, not just a space to be, but something that is that Mishkan, a place of safety and stability and permanence, where we can dwell with God. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Turning our ohel into a mishkan, our house into a home, made me think about how when I was driving in today for the first time here to TBJ, looking up at this magnificent building and already being filled with awe, but that sense of awe that I see in the physical beauty of something I know is just going to be magnified by the awe that comes from creating a community within the synagogue. So I want to share with you a setting of Matovu that I wrote as I was leaving my last congregation in Baltimore, Maryland, about this exact sense of holiness, that a sanctuary is made whole by those that are there together, creating community, creating holy space. Within these walls, filled with memories, are the ones who came before. Within these walls, there's a light on, guiding us no matter where we go. Within these walls, words from the heart, and the prayers that reach our soul. Within these walls, holy music, and the songs that make us whole. Within these walls are generations and their stories we've been told. Within these walls there lives a promise and a hope that we all hold. Within these walls there comes a healing, for we never rise alone. Within these walls are the blessings of all who make this home. Matovu alecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. 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 Try with me. Matovu alecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Matovu alecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Matovu alecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Matovu alecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael.
Letting the beauty of that piece sink in for just a moment, we'll return to our liturgy. The words of Aleinu, page 282. I invite you to rise as the ark is opened.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
We now come to the words of Mourner's Kaddish, the words that honor the lives of those in our families and our communities whom we have lost. As part of honoring their memories, when you hear the name of loved ones, if you feel so inclined, we invite you to rise to honor their memory. We're in a period of Shiva, the first 7 days of mourning, remembering Dawn Berkeley, wife of Leonard Berkeley, mother of Frankie, Holly, David, and Jason, and grandmother of Jackson, Bradley, and Spencer, and Bill Weiss, significant other of Susan Carl. And we're saddened to announce the passing of Carol Soldinger, mother of Lori Maltzman and Larry Aronson, and Michael and Stephanie, grandmother of Sydney and Jessica Maltzman, and Alyssa and Justin. And we're in a period of Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning, for Dr. Jerome Garber, Philip Schlosser, Judy Lizerbrem, Lyda Tallis, Samuel Shep Goldman, Phoebe Tenzer Corwin, Miriam Kaplan, Carlos Silberman, Gladys Sands, Joan Gell, Sandy R. Seiler, Johnny West, and Diana Nee Marzell. And it's the yard site, the anniversary of the passing of Marian Adler, Max Alexander, Betty Asher, Maxine H. Augenblick, Albert Bach, Leonore Beckerman, Edward L. Blau, Harriet Barron Browse, Philip Clare, Bertha Rosenblatt Cohen, Robert I. Cowan, Joseph Davis, Lawrence Howard Goldstein, Dara Gordon, Erna Lindman Harris, David L. Heller, Florence Racklin Hollander Golden, Alvin Hurwitz, Sanford L. Kahn, Joan Rosenberg Kaufman, Abraham Kleinman, Milton Krause, Milton Joel Kruger, Alice Finger Lederer, Belle Schwab Lehman, Lenore Levinson, Helen Lewis, Frank D. Levy Jr., Jesse C. London, George J. Lauris, Haywood Mallon, Carrie Ann Marcus, Esther Mendel, Mortimer W. Mayer, Pauline Michael, Robert David Nathan, Esther M. Osterweil, Lillian Pollins, David Racklin, Eugene D. Radler, Dr. Harry Reiter, Morton Rickel, Joseph J. Rom, Dr. Lee Michael Rosenberg, Marcia Schachtman, Freddie Schnell, Wilhelmina Schreibman, Leonard E. Schwartz, Dina Sedley, Irving Sherman, Francine Schneerson, Edith Unterman Siegler, Charles Sigmund Silber, Myron Joseph Silber, Teresa Loengard Simon, Leon Solomon, Louis Sonnenschein, Murray Sroka, Ruth Barish Ruth Barish Stolt, Samuel Turkis, Mayor Wexler, and Samuel Zashin. We'll rise together as one sacred community as we recite the words of Mourner's Kaddish, page 294. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach hirute v'yamlich malchute, B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uv'izman kari v'imru, Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'almei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudasha barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min Shemaya v'chaim, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, Huya say shalom, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be a blessing. Please be seated. And we are in kind of a slower period during the summer, but lots coming up. So take a look at your weekly emails, information coming out. Not quite yet, but soon about the holidays. They aren't so far away. But
Don't rush me, Rabbi.
Of course not. But we'll be here tomorrow morning for Torah study. Please join us, 8:45. And Kiddush and Motzi?
Kiddush and Motzi.
Right.
Please join me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratza banu, v'shavat kodsho b'ahava uv'ratzon hi nechilanu, zikaron lemaaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim, ki banu b'charta ve'otanu kidasha mikol habib, v'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava u'ratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen. L'chaim.
Chaim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. We are going to bring our service to a close using the refrain that you just heard Becky lead us in. Ma tovu ohaleka Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. How beautiful and how good it feels. I don't know if you feel the magic in this space tonight, but there is something very special going on here, and I feel it with all of you, and I'm really grateful that Becky was able to join us. I'm looking forward to a wonderful year ahead. Please sing with us, Ma Tovu.
Ma tovu alecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. 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 One more time. Ma tovu
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.